Today it is time for a best of 5 series that is the finals of this week's ESL Open Cup for the North American region. Now, luckily for us, this is going to be a match between two of my favorite North Americans, as in the top right-hand corner of a map called Hecate, playing with the blue Protoss pieces from the great state of Denmark. We're looking at none other than MaxPax's main Nexus, and his opponent, I believe this is just south of North Carolina, we have none other than ByuN. Of course, from South Korea. Maybe I should have gone with any other state. Anyways, doesn't really matter all too much. That is apparently the one that popped into my mind first. Just in case you're unfamiliar, because I know this always creates a little bit of confusion, there are 3 iterations of the ESL Open Cup weekly. Every single week, as you may have already guessed. However, it just determines the server that the games are being played on. And if you want to play, you can play from anywhere in the world. It's just that usually the ping is going to be a little bit annoying. And furthermore, obviously, the time slot at which the tournament is going to be played is also going to be a little bit strange. That being said, though, professional gamers, generally speaking, do not keep office hours. Many of them have a very messed up schedule. But, yeah, for some of them, apparently that works out quite nicely because it means that you can play in those international online tournaments quite easily. I know a lot of friends of mine, especially in like college and high school and whatnot, they would like to do this thing as well, where they pretended to be professional gamers and they would go to bed when they were tired and it would, you know, wake up when they were done sleeping. I tried doing that. Never worked for me whatsoever. I would just find myself getting very tired and cranky, and in general, it was just not a way for me to live. I have always lived like an old man. Yeah, ever since I've been, trying to... there you go. Almost getting the probe, but probe does manage to get away. Yeah, ever since I've been doing this this YouTube thing full time, which has been quite a while at this point, I've been trying to keep at least somewhat of a normal sleep schedule. And you know what? I've noticed over the years, I have started waking up earlier. There's something really nice about waking up early. I don't really know exactly why. So, it's probably still not quite as early as some of you watching this video. Anyways, let us see exactly what ended up going down between these two. Obviously, MaxPax, an absolute god-tier Protoss player. In my mind, the strongest Protoss player in the world right now, especially when it comes to the ESL Weekly. This seems to be somehow, some way, the tournament where he specializes in. But of course, you gotta put a little asterisk right next to MaxPax's name, because he does not play offline tournaments, and because of that, well, a lot of his results, they're nice, but they're not quite as good as, for example, somebody like ByuN. ByuN, one of the greatest Terran players in the world. This man won the World Championships back in... I want to say 2017? 2016, maybe? I should really know this. I was there. It was at BlizzCon. I was actually so hyped. It was so exciting. Like, there's something different about watching StarCraft 2 in a crowd of fellow nerds. So I remember watching this at BlizzCon. I wasn't one of the commentators or anything like that, because I wasn't cool enough at the time. Maybe if they had BlizzCon these days, maybe they would ask me. I'm not sure, but I was watching this from the crowd, and just the roar of the crowd as ByuN was microing those Reapers in the final games. It was something special. Actually, probably some of the most hyped StarCraft I've ever watched. Mostly, not because the games were necessarily that amazing, but because of the fact that so many people were super excited. And yeah, it really does create a different atmosphere for sure. Anyhow, Cyclone opener right here from ByuN. He's got 4 of them coming. Relatively uncommon build order. This can certainly catch Protoss players off guard. But the thing about MaxPax is that he's a grinder. There's a very good chance that as I am casting this right now, even though this was played like, you know, at a pretty terrible time for MaxPax, there's a good chance he's online as we speak. And as you're watching this as well, grinding game after game after game. MaxPax, he plays a ton of StarCraft. And because of that, he has got a very good understanding how to deal with all of these different openers. So if you want to be a defensive player, ByuN very much so an aggressive player, MaxPax certainly a defensive Protoss, you have to learn how to deal with the variety of openers, right? And this is one of those things that you can only... Oh, body blocked by his own Stalker there. This is one of those things you can really only learn by playing loads of games of SC2. Now, this is a little bit of an unfortunate beginning so far. Blink is not done yet, but he's going to start just poking away at all of those Cyclones. Maybe a bit of an overextension right there from ByuN. He knew that Blink wasn't going to be finished yet, but, well, turns out with good control, the Stalkers are still going to be A-okay. All of that being said, though, the Cyclones were really just a stepping stone to get up towards that Stimpack research, and now the Siege Tank is out. The main problem usually with Cyclones is that it really cuts into your Siege Tank production. So obviously any sort of like Stalker aggression, which is what MaxPax really loves to do, well, it's going to hit a little bit harder if you have fewer tanks. You really do need to get at least like 2 of them in order to reliably deal with all of this. Now, this is not a super aggressive opener here from MaxPax. It's only 3 gateways. There is a 3rd Nexus on the back of this. But he is going to try and maximize the damage that he can do. 2nd Siege Tank now available. 1st one apparently also is going to start rolling down. Always a difficult choice to make, but when you're close to the SCVs, you can also get that nice little repair. And apparently we're going to go back into the main base. A little bit of a supply block right there for ByuN. But luckily for him, he decided to pick Terran, so he can drop supply depots out of the high heavens. Nobody knows where those depots come from. Yeah, this is one of the unexplained mysteries of life. How did we build the pyramids? Did they, you know, get put down by a bunch of aliens? I know that some... But maybe that's... You know what? Maybe that's where the supply depots come from. Yeah, maybe they're built by aliens. It could certainly be the case. RoboBay on the back of this right here for Mr. MaxPax, who's been building up his economy at home. Now transitioning towards the charge. Alrighty. Couple of skill checks right here. In the early phases of this particular finals. Both players trying to outsmart the opponent, throwing a few curveballs, checking whether or not they are on point. Now ByuN is going for a very interesting little attack over here, though, because he really doesn't have that many units. Yeah, more Marines are going to be marching out, but they're not part of this unit comp just yet. But obviously that is something that Mr. MaxPax is immediately going to start making use of. 1 Stalker there ends up going down. Scan does reveal roughly what this looks like. Good force field over here to at the very least prevent the siege tanks from going up. Alrighty, so MaxPax's economy is superior. That does mean that he can produce more army the longer that this game goes on. But if it's up to ByuN, he wants to see if he can obtain the victory within the next minute or 2. Couple of bunkers building at the front. Stimpack activated right here on the left. Couple of units here on the side of Protoss are starting to fall. There is an Immortal out at this point, but this Immortal is going to have a very hard time connecting towards the left side. Colossus also on the production tab. Okay, Stalkers will be blinking around. Probes are forced to pull away from their mineral lines, and they're, well, trying to send their little tasers in the direction of the Terran units. Ultimately, MaxPax does stabilize on that site, but it does come at the cost of 12 probes. Colossus is coming, though. Yeah, Colossus is great against Marines, but not so much against Marines inside of bunkers. 1 hero Zealot over here trying to keep everything alive, but there's Big Daddy Colossus. Stalkers thinking about going around this site to maybe pick up a few of those reinforcements. I do think it's an excellent choice. Observer here is going to get sniped. Unfortunate right there for MaxPax, but of course nicely spotted right there by ByuN, who was starting to be a little bit suspicious of the way that his opponent was moving around that army. It seemed that MaxPax knew exactly where to position his units, and well, turns out that is the reason as to why. There's not enough room in that prism for all of these units, but ByuN is trying to create a chokehold on this base. He needs to be careful, especially now with the Stalkers in the middle of the map, picking off the reinforcements. I don't think killing those 13 or so probes was really enough. MaxPax now ready to actually start putting down some pressure on the other side of the map. 2nd Colossus is gonna come out in just a moment. Brilliant stuff right here by the Danish player. Yeah, the problem is this still needs to be broken, right? And look at this positioning right here for ByuN. How in the world do you break this? Missile turrets, they can shoot at Colossi, because Colossi are both ground as well as air units. Now we do have a Zealot Warpin in the main base, but it looks like this one is gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be cleaned up relatively easily. This is nicely done right here by ByuN. A lot of SCVs have fallen though. Okay, siege tanks rolling further forward. Yeah, they are going to be within range right here of some of these structures. The ranged upgrade is actually a super important one for the Colossi. That allows them to shoot at whatever they want to shoot at significantly easier. I love this counterattack though from MaxPax. He decided to bring that group of Stalkers and the Immortal across the map as well. Because obviously that army on the other side, on the side of the Protoss, is not going to have an easy time this attack moving forward. Okay, with good control, there is certainly a chance that MaxPax can win this fight, although he decides to siege up in a very dangerous position, and that is going to go in favor of our Terran player. I think it's because these siege tanks over here, yeah, they have been an absolute nuisance. I think ByuN, he's starting to do it. This depot here is making it impossible for MaxPax to get into a good spot. We're gonna go into a Templar Archives right now. 33 SCVs though is all that really remains right now for ByuN. He doesn't really have any medevacs either, so sure, he does have a bunch of Marines and Marauders here, but they're low at hit points, or in hit points, and that does mean he needs to be very cautious. It's just that he's being strangled, right? Like, MaxPax here is being strangled. There's really no way for him to easily do all of this. He decided to pull the additional probes from the high ground down to the low ground, and despite the fact that MaxPax does have more workers right now than ByuN, he simply does not have the mineral fields. Scans over there, by the way, do reveal as well for ByuN that there is no hidden base. And that's a big deal. More bunkers, more missile turrets. These guys are gonna have to charge at some point. And I don't think it is going to be a successful charge. Okay. Yeah, he decides to pull the trigger. Apparently this is the time to go. Siege tanks here absolutely destroying that Immortal together with the Colossus. Brilliant stuff right here from ByuN. It looked a little bit dicey for just a moment, but when he cleaned up that aggression in his natural, he managed to seal the deal. Game number 2, we find ourselves on Equilibrium. Now, the tone of this series has certainly been set. ByuN immediately starts off this game as well by sending out an SCV towards the other side of the map. Alrighty. Yeah, so ByuN very good when it comes to that aggression. MaxPax really good when it comes to playing defensively. But playing defensively as Protoss, I mean, I have given it a try many times myself. It's so tricky. For some reason, Stalkers are both amazingly strong as well as amazingly weak at the same time. We have a couple of siege tanks shelling away at them that just seem to pop so quickly, right? And it's a mess. But when it goes well, though, when your shield battery gets its overcharge done and you manage to, well, just shoot a few additional times with your Immortals and your Colossi and your Stalkers and stuff, it is very doable. But ByuN, yeah, setting the tone of this series right here by going for a good old 2-base all-in. An extended one. You had to build a ton of infrastructure on the other side of the map. It is not like the good old days where you could just make a big army on 2 bases and call it a day. You have to really commit to it. Obviously, you could always salvage the bunkers, but I mean, at that point in the game, he really needed to get something done. I actually think that there was a good opportunity, though, for MaxPax when he first went across the map with that group of Stalkers, right? So not when he first went across the map, but like when he first went across the map whilst he was being contained. I think that decision-making was really clever, but then, yeah, he got a little over-eager. Probably distracted by siege tanks. He found himself getting shut down, and that really sealed the deal. Alrighty, anyways, barracks already done right here for ByuN. This is something that MaxPax doesn't quite scout, but he does see the double gas in the main base right now of the Terran player, and he on top of that also sees that there is no barracks at home. Now, that doesn't mean that it isn't built right over here or literally anywhere else. But he's gonna find out right now that something is a little bit fishy. Chrono boost, yep, immediately on the Stalker. That makes a lot of sense. Zealot is not gonna be able to get much done. Bunker, will it finish? It looks like it will. SCV is gonna have to pay the price. 2 probes have gone down so far. 3rd probe also. 4th probe gets picked off. Okay. Of course, this is a single opener, right? A single command center opener right here for ByuN. He will have to make a command center here on the back of it, and he will do so shortly. But even though he's killed a bunch of economy on the other side of the map, it's also come at the cost of his own eco. So there finally is the 2nd CC coming up. We have a reactor building right now on the factory, so we'll probably see some more aggression here from our Terran player, which honestly with ByuN is a solid choice. Where's that Stalker? I was gonna say, we have 2 Stalkers right now. First one together with the Zealot apparently marching towards the other side of the map. One of the downsides of having that barracks on the side of the Protoss is that right now you're gonna have to make the flight of shame. And whilst you're making the flight of shame, obviously this structure is not producing. So these 2 lads over here, they can actually get quite a bit of damage done. He confirmed that there is no expansion, so he's not gonna risk it. Okay. Cyclones are coming. Obviously, when you're fighting into Cyclones with these slow-moving units at this phase in the game, it does get a bit messy. It looks like ByuN gets another probe for his troubles. So 7 probes at this point in the game is actually incredibly good, though, for the Terran player. Obviously, worker count is a little deceptive here. Because not only does ByuN have one additional worker, or right now, I guess, -1 worker compared to his opponent, but of course, he's got those mules, right? And those mules do give him a lot of income. Reapers eventually are going to fall, but they will see the Twilight Council transition, so that's always nice here for the Terran. You know, you don't have to worry about any, I don't know, flying units here, for example, or... I mean, this doesn't necessarily exclude any Dark Templar play, but... it does mean that you don't have to be concerned here anytime soon. Alrighty. Blink is coming. Yeah. I think Terran players have gotten a little too adventurous lately with... ooh, miscontrol right there from ByuN. With their Cyclones. So the Cyclone obviously has gotten a bunch of changes, and it is going to get a bunch more changes in the upcoming SC2 balance patch as well. In case you don't really know exactly what's going on in that regard, I did make a video about it. I'll post a link to it down below in the description of this one, in case you're interested in checking it out. But anyways, I think a lot of Protoss players have started to realize that oftentimes with 2 Stalkers, you can actually kind of fight against low numbers of Cyclones. For now, ByuN gets to be the aggressor in this match. However, Blink is about halfway done at this point, and that is going to make this life a lot easier for MaxPax. There's also a... he's just targeting probes and whatever he can get, really. Not bad. There's also a Banshee on the back of this. A unit we haven't seen yet in this series, but ByuN really just trying to be as harassment heavy as possible. You can see that MaxPax is trying to play catch up here for the most part. Ooh, nicely done. That's what ByuN has been looking for. So those bits of micro, so the way that that works, basically the Stalker damage is not registered, as we do by the way have a gold base going up. It's not registered until it connects with the unit. Problem is, like I said, this is for the North American server. So both players are playing with probably like 150 to 180 or so ping. Meaning that, yeah, every shot that you take, you have to be, yeah, you can give it a try, but you have to almost like predict what your opponent is going to do, because, you know, a little less than like a 0.2 second delay really is quite significant in a game of SC2 when you're trying to get fancy with your micro. Alrighty, MaxPax not in a comfortable spot, but of course Equilibrium, there it is scanned. It's revealed right here for ByuN that now the golden minerals are going to be in play, and that's a rich Vespian Geyser as well. There's not a lot of units though here for the Protoss. Yeah, there's 7 Stalkers. He is going to send them in. Siege tank having a grand old time. Second siege tank. Yeah, not even... oh, there is a second siege tank. I was going to say. There's one set up in the natural. Okay, looks like the medevac goes down in the meantime. So maybe MaxPax can now force all of his units to go across. But does he really need to, right? May as well poke a little bit. But if you kill the medevac, there's not going to be that much possible aggression. Whatever happened, by the way, to that Banshee? Oh, Banshee got sniped. I didn't even get it on the camera. Alright. Nicely done right there by Mr. MaxPax. Sniping it faster than the observer of this game can see. AKA me. Alright. ByuN at this point with a worker lead, but this is that awkward moment where he doesn't yet have a 3rd command center set up, and he's going to start oversaturating his bases. Obviously, a bunch of SCVs are always building structures as well, so it's not the end of the world, but securing a 3rd is going to be a necessity. There we go. 3rd command center, going to fly on over to the low ground. Nice control right here by MaxPax, picking up whatever he can. A couple Marines are going to have to pay the price for it. Stimpack is going to finish up in a moment. Combat shields is quite a weight behind. Quite a ways, there you go, behind it. +1 infantry weapons also on the back of this right now for the Terran. So ByuN is going to be sitting back here for at least a little bit. At least he should be sitting back here for at least a little bit. Then again, this is ByuN. Trying to get lucky against MaxPax. Yeah, gets 1 Stalker. Gets 2 Stalkers. Problem is it's dangerous. These units haven't quite reached their power spike. He's actually just going to move out right now. Yeah. The early game has gone so well here for ByuN that he's feeling like he can actually go for a move here. If this would have been a sloppier early game for him, I don't think he would be this aggressive, but he wants to get siege tanks and widow mines up on that position right there, overlooking the gold base. Nice blink. A lot of low HP Terran units though. Zealots don't yet have charge. +1 infantry weapons is done right now for our Terran player. Those widow mines though, Dealing a bunch of friendly fire as well. Alright, charge is finishing. 8 Zealots warped in inside of the main base of the Terran. We're still a little ways away, though, from finishing up the upgrade. Now it's done. Okay, splitting off these units. Forcing some of the Terran army to go back home. I am starting to be a little bit concerned, though, for this particular base. This really is the lifeline right here for MaxPax. This counter-aggression is nice and all, but reinforcing Terran units should be able to get rid of it. And losing the gold base would essentially be game-ending right here. So let's see. MaxPax is going to try and come in from 2 angles. Zealots on the left a little early, forcing some of those siege tanks to potentially deal friendly fire. I mean, I don't love this army movement right here for ByuN, who's just going to right-click it. In the meantime, he's lost so many SCVs at home, though. Okay. 23 SCVs have gone down. There has been a massive army here. It must have just not been controlled. Because I think all of the SCVs over at the 3rd base were killed here by MaxPax. So that, like, what was it? Like, it was just 8 Zealots or so, right? I mean, maybe he did warp in some additional ones. No, I think it was just the 8 in total. They killed so much. MaxPax immediately rebuilding the gold base, by the way, which I think is quite clever. Matter of fact, drop in the main base, also a little over-eager. Alright. ByuN is going to chill for just a moment. I think that's the right call. His economy is still good. His army is still big. I don't think he really needs to be that aggressive, but then again, this is ByuN we're talking about. Look at the army movement right here for MaxPax, though. Pretending like he is a lot stronger than he actually is at this point in time. He really doesn't have that magnificent of an army at all, but he's read the art of war. He knows that he needs to appear strong when he's actually weak. In a straight-up fight, there is no doubt in my mind that ByuN will absolutely trash this Protoss army. But that's also exactly why MaxPax is set up in such a way that he is ready to go for the counterattack. Gold base, though, is finished. Missile turret is coming up. I think if ByuN hits it... yeah, if he hits right now, he should be A-okay. So he sees the entire Terran army on the other side. MaxPax it is. This is the moment where apparently some of the Stalkers, or some of the Zealots rather, are going to try and go around. Good positioning here this time around on the Widow Mines. Looks like Zealots over here are going to get picked off as well. 2 Immortals, 1 Sentry, and a Colossus. Very expensive set of units to lose, although so far, looks like MaxPax is keeping quite a few of them alive. Ultimately, though, all the heavy hitters here for the Protoss are going to end up going down. And I think with that, the chances of MaxPax winning this game are going to disappear. And there we go, match point already for ByuN. As we make our way to the map site, Delta. I've fast-forwarded through the first 2 minutes of the game, because, well, both players were just happily building up all of their stuff. We've got ourselves a quick expansion right here for MaxPax. Very normal opener, as he decides to go into, maybe not his beloved build order, but he decides to go into the Stargate. MaxPax, in my mind, is very much so a Twilight man, right? Protoss players, yeah, they're Twilight people. Either that or Robo people. Or maybe, I guess, if you really want to Stargate people too. In my mind, MaxPax, very much so a Twilight man. But the Stargate, also a good option. The nice thing about the Stargate, of course, is that you can really prevent yourself from losing in the earlier stages of the game. If, and this is the big question, if you micro everything perfectly. Phoenixes into Colossus, technically a very safe approach. It's just that you need... well, very good control in order to not lose to anything silly. So far, by the way, MaxPax has not really faced any sort of like Widow Mine drop aggression. So Widow Mine drops, Raven pushes, that sort of thing. Very easy to clean up with Phoenixes. He hasn't really played against it yet, but, well, with a more conventional opener right here from ByuN, maybe that is something he's got in mind. Yep, it is indeed going to be, look at that, a nice little Widow Mine drop. And this can actually be quite a problem here for Terran. Because if you find yourself on the other side of the map with the Widow Mine drop and you're going up against Phoenixes and you don't know, well, you may just end up losing the medevac and the mines for free. And even though Protoss players like to believe that these units are all practically free as far as the minerals and gas go, they're actually quite expensive. Cloaking field on the back it is. Unorthodox way of playing it, but of course... well, the way that the Terran tech paths work. Okay, he actually is just dropping them in the middle of the map. Predicting that there could be an Oracle flying down this particular location. Look at him. He's baiting here, too. He's like, oh, no. I'm just a medevac. Definitely don't attack me. I'm just a medevac. Oh, no. Don't do it. Oh, oh God. I didn't take the bait. You love it. I love to see it. MaxPax has played one too many games against ByuN at this point. Now, okay. Yeah, now you get them for free. Phoenixes are one of the few Protoss units that don't actually die against a single Widowmine hit. Yeah, they look like paper planes. They really do feel very flimsy, but they can actually sustain quite a bit of damage. Robo Bay on the back of this. Jimmy is about ready as well to go for an attack. Jimmy and the crew, that is. The commanding officer. Maybe they're all called Jimmy. Yeah, an entire squad of Jimmys. Banshee, in the meantime, is gonna finish the cloaking upgrade. We do have a second Banshee on the production tab. So the Banshee here is actually a bit weird. Generally, you wouldn't go for cloaked Banshees after going for a Widowmine drop like this, but it's ByuN. So, you know. I feel like that is descriptive enough, you know. It's ByuN, so yeah, you can really... What was that? Oh, a Phoenix. All right. It can really be anything. Do we have an observer nearby? We're gonna need one. We do have an observer, but yeah, it's inside of the main base. A little bit of damage done by the Phoenixes on the other side. Now a little bit of damage done right here as well by the Banshee, though. 7 probes for all that Stargate time, and then also the upgrade and the Banshee itself. It is a bit expensive. Second Banshee, though. Okay. I like this right here from MaxPax, predicting that indeed there would be a second Banshee. This is very tempting to send those Phoenixes on over towards the right side of the map, so... That trick right there from ByuN not quite working out, and now the question is, will he be able to get the kill on that third Nexus? This reporter can only guess no. The Jimmies, they get to fly up in the air. The G-forces must be quite extreme when you go up into the air like that, right? And then they drop you back down. It's like bungee jumping with a Phoenix. I wouldn't want to be lifted up by... No, I don't think I wouldn't want to be lifted by a Phoenix. I don't think so. Alrighty, so. This is the first time in the series that MaxPax is comfortable. Yeah, this is where Protoss players can start breathing. You have to wait for about 7 minutes, right? You have to play a clean game. But then suddenly, you can feel that weight drop off your shoulders. Now ByuN is forced to play a little bit more defensively. Now, of course, it's not what he likes to play, but he's still very good at it. Problem is, when you have this many Phoenixes out on the map, are you brave enough to send out a Widowmine drop? Are you brave enough to send out a medevac in general? I don't think so. Stimpack, combat shields, +1 infantry weapons. Actually, we don't have combat shields yet. It's 1-1 upgrades here instead. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that ByuN is going to be chilling here for a little bit until a bunch of his upgrades will finish up. Not a whole lot he can do. Although this is ByuN, so maybe he is going to make a move. Because ByuN, his fingers start itching as soon as he sits back. This is that moment, though, where Mr. MaxPax is going to feel comfortable. Going into the ranged upgrade for the Colossus, going into the charged upgrade for the Zealots, +1 ground weapons for everything else. 6 additional gateways. I think a 4th Nexus will be coming up as well. Okay. There's the Templar Archives. Yeah, this is where Protoss players go shopping. You don't want to go too crazy here with your shopping. It's not like you can just use the credit card, you know, on everything. But this is a moment where you do have quite a bit of time in these Phoenixes, and look at how much they occupy this Terran army, right? So ByuN indeed feeling like he could go for a bit of a move out. And immediately he's dragged all the way back home with a bunch of those, well, Terran units going down for essentially free. 4th Command Center comes up on location. This is the bravest SCV. And I think he's gonna get punished for it immediately. What is this decision making here, ByuN? We just go for... Okay. Well, you know what? He actually gets away with it. The Phoenixes were flying on over in this direction. But MaxPax did not consider that ByuN was such a madman that he would just build the CC right in that location. Could have easily shut it down. Medevac drop in the meantime, though. A bit of a YOLO drop coming across. ByuN does find himself with a supply advantage at this point. There are 69 probes available at this point for MaxPax. Nice! Problem is, the army here for Protoss is still big. He was sending a bunch of his army across the map. ByuN's economy has gotten quite a bit healthier. Tech-wise, obviously, this is a really good situation here for MaxPax. Yeah, 11 SCVs are going down in the meantime with a Zealot run by. I think this is still fine. It always looks a bit scary, right? When Protoss gets that advantage earlier. Oh, Immortal's actually... That Immortal does end up falling. It always looks a little scary when Protoss looks like they're in such a good spot, and then you don't pay attention to the supply count for a few minutes, and slowly but surely, the Terran is creeping back up there. Anyways, now we're gonna have Archons. This is basically MaxPax getting all of the high tier units, whereas ByuN is still kind of stuck with a relatively low upgraded army. He doesn't really have any Ghosts, he doesn't really have any Vikings, he doesn't really have any, you know, definitely no Liberators or anything along those lines. It's just good old Marines, Marauders, Medevacs. They're good. And they can certainly win the game. But all the signs are pointing in an advantage right here for the Protoss player. Finally does find his base. I do really like that ByuN actually has a 4th command center, though. The fact that he does have a 4th CC is big. Once he finishes 2-2, he gets maxed out once. I think he can start up the transition quite easily towards whatever you like. This is ByuN, so he may just stick around on Marine Marauder Medevac, because he does that against everything. Free Colossus? Potentially. Looks like the Colossus does turn around, and it's not going to happen. Big stim forward right over here. Okay, we did have an EMP. I was going to say, I didn't actually see the Ghost there in that unit composition, but there was an EMP. No force fields. Zealot's there distracting it. MaxPax with his signature Zealot run-bys. The man is smelling blood right now, though. Yeah, he's got the Terran on the ropes. And this is that intersection that is so difficult to break. Once Protoss is in this spot, how in the world do you get into this location here as Terran? MaxPax in a little bit of a commanding position, but he needs to be careful he does not overextend. Obviously, he is still on the side of the Terran. 2-2 is finishing up. A lot of Ghosts are produced here as well. Okay, he just decides to go into the natural expansion. Suddenly, though, that does mean the Terran can hit him at multiple different angles. Zealot run by in the meantime from the other side of the map is going to distract the bulk of the Terran army. And I think MaxPax has done it. Yep. All of these heavy hitters are still around. Command center ends up falling down, and 2-2 upgrades or not, there's just simply not enough Terran. ByuN taps out, and MaxPax gets a point on the board. Oceanborn is going to be game number 4. A great example, though, as to the control that you get if you do play Phoenixes correctly. You'd imagine that especially somebody like MaxPax would be quite a big fan of that style, just because he is, well, certainly somebody who likes being in control of the matchup and who likes, yeah, deciding the pacing of the match, and yet he pretty much always favors going for, ooh, a Twilight opener. Anyways, this time around is going to be a Robo facility. So out of the 3 different tech choices, right, so as soon as the Cybercore finishes up, you can choose to go either into a Twilight Council, a Stargate, or a Robo facility. Robo facility is certainly the least common variant. Couple different variations for this opener too. He's trying to figure out what's going on here on the other side of the map. He does see that this is likely going to be a Cyclone opener. Second gateway starts up over at the front. We could just go straight into Immortal. Yeah, I think that is the option. I think that's what we go for. There it is. Good old Immortals. Immortals absolutely murder Cyclones. In a straight up battle, the Cyclones really don't have a chance. Keep in mind that at this point, ByuN does not know what he's playing against, so he's gonna see the timing right there of that. Oh, he doesn't actually see the timing of the second gate. Doesn't really matter all too much. ByuN, by the way, going back to the build that won him game number 1 and 2, opting to steer away from the good old Widowmine drop. Even though Widowmine drop is, well, one of the build orders that's gonna get nerfed in the upcoming balance patch. very specifically a strategy that people have complained about for well, for many years at this point. Apparently, we're not all too concerned about it in this particular series. ByuN does not consider it to be too good, but maybe he got a bit unlucky that his opponent ended up opening up Phoenixes. Well, now he sees the Immortal. Yeah. Decent force field. Okay. Sacrifices the Sentry in favor of a Cyclone. Looks like the Adepts in the meantime have managed to shade in. A couple SCVs here. They've ended up going down. In the meantime, we do have the Adept shading all the way back towards the other side. Careful now, though, ByuN. You don't want to get too aggressive here. Okay, this one really needs to start back up. Oh, he decides to cancel the barracks instead to try and get some more money going. ByuN, you need to make a supply depot. ByuN, you're not making a supply depot. Okay, now he starts one up. That means that he won't be able to produce a whole lot. How many gateways are we currently on? We've got 3 gateways at this point, together with a Robo Bay. So a potential Disruptor or Colossus transition here on the back of this for Mr. MaxPax, who's just gonna go for a good old 3 gateway, 1 Robo facility push. Okay, nice pickup control right there with the Prism. I think you may have to pull SCVs. Yeah. Careful though. That siege tank is gonna have a grand old time. Okay, it is gonna get killed here, but it comes at the cost of quite a few Protoss units too. That supply block really hurting ByuN there, because he was not producing out of those barracks for quite a while. Oh no. He was mining here. Ah, now he realizes it. He was mining here on the low ground, but those mules were on idle for a long time. They will return one more trip of resources, but I don't think they're going to be able to get another one. Yep. And that is painful. Alright. Everything going terribly right here for our Terran. That may be all that MaxPax really needs. Now, this is MaxPax, so we're not going to see a complete 2-base all-in. Instead, we've got ourselves the 3rd Nexus about halfway done, and then that quick Colossus transition. I mean, I still think this is really clever though, right? I'm really not taking any chances. Okay, ByuN, he knows that this game is going terribly for him. He can really only play super laid back for the next 5 minutes, at which point he will probably lose. So rather than sitting back, he decides to rip off the Band-Aid, and it's going to be MaxPax who obtains the victory in game number 4. That will take us to the map Alcyone. Now, previously this series, it was looking like a landslide victory for ByuN. A quick 3-0 in under half an hour, but suddenly, we find ourselves with the potential for a reverse sweep in favor of MaxPax. ByuN actually opening up with the unit that he personally managed to get nerfed twice. Going for the Reaper opener. How boring. How uninspired. Twilight Council here for Mr. MaxPax. So, as the dust settles, it looks like both players have decided to go back to their good old faithful build orders. Cyclones here, 2 at a time. Not a bad idea. This is definitely going to be Blink right here for MaxPax, who is going to be able to kill an SCV, but not before that SCV managed to, well, finish up that command center. There's the Blink. Got ourselves a 2nd barracks now coming up, so ByuN not going for the 1-1-1, instead opting to go for the quick double barracks opener. This will, of course, allow him more infantry, but it does also mean that he's not going to be able to really drop any army here anytime soon. It's really going to delay any sort of aggression in the first few minutes of the game, and I think that will be something that MaxPax will be quite happy with. Yeah, not having to deal with those annoying Terran units inside of your base controlled by ByuN. Probably the best micro Terran in the world. It's not a bad feeling. Okay. Well, we're still gonna have a bunch of those Cyclones though driving around the map. At this point, obviously, there's not a lot of Stalkers yet. One shield battery at the front is gonna keep this low HP Stalker at full HP. What would have been low HP anyways. Okay, we're gonna see the big switcheroo. 3rd barrack starts up. Another tech lab here. 2 Marines at a time. We're not gonna go into the combat shields research yet. Neither do we have a engineering bay. I'm expecting those, though, to come up here momentarily. Looks like 1 Stalker ended up going down. Problem is, Blink is going to finish up, right? And Blink is going to make this game so much easier for MaxPax. Like, all of the Terran aggression, I mean, it's not necessarily just shut down, because you still need to control everything well, but it is going to make defending so much easier. Prism now also going to provide a lot of additional mobility, and that one is about to finish up. This is a double gateway start for now, with 2 additional gates here on the back of this. So while MaxPax may be thinking about making a 3rd Nexus, he will indeed start it up. He is certainly planning on being aggressive in this game. Well, starts off with 2 Adepts being sacrificed. Nicely picked off right there by ByuN. This is also not a 3rd CC opener here for Mr. Terran, so what that means is that MaxPax is planning on dealing a bunch of... Yeah, he's planning on dealing a bunch of damage on the other side of the map, but he needs to be very careful. 4 gateways kind of force you to be aggressive, but obviously with triple Nexus going up against 2 CC, with Stimpack finishing up right now, you gotta be cautious. Now, good pickup control here immediately with that Prism. None better than MaxPax when it comes to controlling these sorts of armies, but there's still so many things that can go wrong, and ultimately, I don't know if I love that. 4 Stalkers for a bunch of Cyclones and a Marine, I mean, yeah. Those Cyclones would have fallen here regardless. Then again, though, there's the NG Bay, there is the, well, Combat Shields research. This is just such a passive start for ByuN. Considering he's playing passively, but at the same time he doesn't have a quick triple CC, I don't think I love it. Like, this is ultimately leading towards like a 2-base all-in, but a very late one. And if you keep on trading out units like this, yeah, it should be really good for MaxPax. Because MaxPax does have that superior economy right now. Trading army here before Terran really reaches that power spike, before that combat shields and the +1 are done, that is phenomenal right here for our Protoss. Well, he's gonna even go for a warp in over here. There's not enough Marines anymore really available. Aggressive link forward as well. Goes after the siege tank. 1 siege tank falls. 2nd siege tank gets picked off as well. A costly exchange, but in the meantime, 14 SCVs also ended up dying. In the meantime, we've got ourselves the charge research happening here. +1 ground attacks coming up for MaxPax. He's decided to go into additional gateways here, so we're gonna see that full gateway-based army for now. Does ByuN still have enough stuff to even attack with? So he's got 5 barracks on 2 bases. What that means is that you're not going to be able to really afford a 3rd command center, really ever. MaxPax doesn't really need to be aggressive here, but he's just trying to poke and see what he can get. Any resources that are spent right now, for example, on repair, it's not a bad situation if it only costs you some shields right here on those Stalkers, and you're just going to be able to regen that. We've got ourselves a sentry coming up together with an immortal. MaxPax really doesn't need to be aggressive. We really don't need a 4th base. Thought for a second we were gonna go for a 4th Nexus. That would be absurd. This is a delayed 2-base all-in right here for ByuN. All you really need to do right now is Protoss. And this is much easier said than done, but all you really need to do is hold. It's gonna be a big attack from ByuN. He may very well pull the boys as well with this, honestly. I would not be surprised. Another supply depot coming out of the high heavens. Yeah, the question is there enough for MaxPax to deal with all of these Terran units? There are no medevacts, so any Stimpack that was previously used, any damage that was previously taken on those Marines and Marauders is pretty much permanent. Getting a siege tank here would be amazing for MaxPax. Oh, he's gonna get one. He may get the 2nd one too. Oh, he's actually just gonna meet this army in the middle of the map. I did not expect him to do that. Perfect force field right there by the Danish Protoss. And there it is. MaxPax completes the reverse sweep as he obtains the victory. 3-2 over ByuN. Hey, if you enjoyed watching this video, please take the 1 second that it takes to hit the like button down below. It really does help the channel. And if you really enjoyed it, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. I try to post about 5 to maybe 6 times or so a week. Other than that, I also have a 2nd channel where I post completed games that I have live streamed. That is youtube.com/morelowko. There's a link down below in the description of this video. For now though, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile, and I hope to see you soon for another video.